Want to be the ideal sports parent? Do this.
Wow, what a great question. An idea to get at this time of year. Like this is one of the coolest times of year. If you're a teacher, you dread it a little bit, but I think parents really look forward to it. Kids really look forward to it. It's the start of fall sports season. They're starting to kick off. They're starting to get rolling again. And this is just a fun time of year. Lots of excitement.
It is. I think fall sports, this could apply to any new sports season, especially when we're talking about high school. You have the fall sports, you have the winter sports, you have the spring sports, you have the summer sports that happen. But I really love the fall sports just because it is the beginning of a new school year. Even though I'm not teaching anymore, you have the smells in the air, you have the excitement. Kids are, whether
they're
they
not burned
admit
out
it,
on school yet. It's different.
whether
with
they
the fall
admit it or
sports.
not, they're looking forward to going back to school and
they want to see their friends again. It's all about being around their friends.
Yep, for sure.
And so there's a level of happiness that goes along with fall sports that doesn't go with the winter or the spring.
So we're going to talk about the parents preseason.
Mm-hmm. How can you show up as the ideal sports parent? Pretty cool topic.
And I don't think this is often addressed.
It's one of the greatest high performing concepts is the idea of intention, getting intentional about the things. And I don't think it's ever addressed for parents that how are you intentionally going to show up and be a great sports parent? You might think about it a little bit in the back of your mind, but it's like, let's go after it. Let's really put a plan in place. Let's get some ideas out where how can I be an ideal sports parent?
Well, we're going to hit one specific facet of becoming an ideal sports parent. And this actually came to my mind in the pre-op room. So, it's funny. We did a few episodes ago, we did an injury episode, and anyway, I had to have a surgery on my wrist, an old injury, and we really don't.
And how long ago did you injure it?
7 years ago in a Spartan race.
And this is why it's smart to get the injuries dealt with pronto.
Yeah, but we're not going to talk about that. We're going to move forward. But there I am in the pre-op room, and my wife is there, my greatest supporter and friend, and you had a couple of nurses and then there's a medical assistant there, and the surgeons come in. Anyway, they're doing all the things to get me ready for a successful surgery. But the medical assistant, his name is Preston. He is the brother of one of my favorite players that I coached years ago, over 20 years ago. And he was in our program from a freshman to senior year. He was a terrific little point guard and quarterback. He was one of my favorite combos. He was football, basketball, and he was extremely coachable, very athletic, tough kid. And I was talking with his brother Preston about his parents and his family, and it just naturally came out of my mouth that, your parents were absolutely fantastic to work with. They were ideal sports parents. Now, that is coming from my perspective as a head high school coach. These were parents that were just incredible. And there's lots of things that they did. They were very supportive in fundraisers, and they attended their son's games and all of those things. But there was a particular reason why they were so awesome.
And
I
want to hear it. What made them so great?
Well, it had to do with a parent to coach communication policy that I had. And I wish I could take credit for this, although maybe I don't want to take credit for it because many parents don't like it. In fact, I had some parents that I don't think they ever fully understood it. I would like to think that most of my parents did, and I was blessed over 2+ decades of having terrific sports parents. Really, really good. But it has to do with the parent to coach communication. And I got this from a guy named Bruce Brown. He has a company called Proactive Coaching. I don't know if he is still actively doing this. He's years ahead of us, Nate, but he's one of those guys that was in coaching and teaching for 30 to 40 years and up in the Pacific Northwest. And I first came across him at a high school clinic in Seattle that I like to frequent, and heard him speak several times. And he laid out a parent communication policy that I instantly adopted, and it ended up being so beneficial. So enough with all the background and boring stuff. This was the communication policy. And that was, we were okay with parents communicating with us as coaches, but there were 3 things that were off limits. Okay. The 3 things that were off limits was playing time. Oh, see, I just made some people mad. 2, team strategy. Oh my gosh, I just made more people mad. It's like, come on, coach. It's like, you guys are down 20. Like, why are you playing zone defense, or, why are you doing this? And then the third thing was discussing another player's status on the team, whether it's the other player's playing time, the other player's stats, the other player's role on the team. So the 3 things: playing time, your son, in my case, coaching boys, your son's individual time, playing time, the strategy of the team as it related to basketball, and then the third thing, other players in particulars. So anything else, like the mental and physical well-being of your son, grades, anything to do with logistics, practice, games, scheduling, anything else of concern, that was where we would have what's called an open door policy. But when it came to these things, that was where a boundary was created.
Yeah. No,
are you mad? I'm wondering if Nate's mad at me right now.
No, I'm not mad at you for that one. And being an ideal sports parent is about understanding. I think this is Bruce Brown as well. And it's understanding your role within the program. And we were having a conversation as we were prepping for this episode where we talk about kids nowadays play so much of these sports growing up. And when they're younger, they're usually coached by somebody else's dad. And so it's easy to get, as a parent, you're comfortable talking to the coach about playing time because it's like his son, my son. And it's a very different dynamic. When it goes to the high school level, when it goes to these more organized professional type teams, it's hard to apply the boundaries because you have some habits and it's very different when they're younger. And so getting them to the point where parents, as a parent, I understand my role within the program. I'm not the coach. I'm not a player. I'm not an official. I'm a parent. And if I can have that leads to a very, very healthy approach as a parent, because you let the players do their thing. You stay out of the way. It's not my job to manage and worry about the drama with the other players. It's not my job to coach the team. We've coached teams. We understand how big of a burden that is. I'm not sure if people understand how much they're trying to take on when they do that. And then obviously the officials. But if you can slot into that correct role and just be that parent, that helps a lot in being an ideal sports parent. I think that's a Bruce Brown thing too, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah, it is. And he likes to talk about having one instructional voice. And
Mm-hmm.
this is especially important. And this is through his I don't know if this is more than just anecdotal in his own research based opinion, but I I do trust Bruce Brown. I mean, he has put in the work, and he has decades of experience in.
Decades of experience.
Yes, he believes that it's right around the freshman year when your sons and daughters start having coaches that for sure. Now, I know somebody out there is going to say, well, that's not true in this situation. There's always going to be exceptions. But he says it's around the ninth grade year, the freshman year, when your son or daughter start having coaches that definitely, most assuredly, know more about coaching and the sport than you. And so this is really tough. As you were mentioning, in our culture, parents are so heavily involved in youth sports, as they should be. I mean, their kids are young, they're in the formative years, and they're driving them to all the practices. They're paying for the plane tickets for the baseball tournament in Arizona, and they're doing all of these things. And so they definitely have a lot more say as far as playing time, team strategy. Those things just kind of naturally happen, and they've created habits. Not that those things are necessarily terrible, but when you get to high school, I know from a high school coach's perspective, that is time for the parent to step back and fulfill the very critical, important role of parent and not coach. So
Yep.
when you're talking about playing time, team strategy, and other players, now you're getting into the role of the coach. And we need the parents to be great parents.
Yep. And if they can focus on that, that adds the most value. Um, I'd like to add a little bit to that with that idea of, as parents, there's some parents that have some pretty elite playing experience, even coaching experience, but it's that idea of one instructional voice. So even if you do know the sport really well, it creates a division of focus for the players if they're getting one variant of the instruction from their coach and another variant from their parents. And it can inadvertently cause some issues for the team because you've got, and kids are in a tough spot because they respect their parents. They love their parents, even if they don't act like it most of the time. But they respect and they love their parents. And so they want to please them. And so if you get one voice at home and one voice of practice and they're saying different things, that can cause a lot of problems for the team. And like nobody wants to cause problems for the team, but it's that division of that instructional voice. So even if you are one of those parents who does know the game really well, it's critical that you understand where to slot in and add the most value for your son or daughter in their situation. And this isn't just true in sports. This is like, you have school plays, you have all these other areas, the performance areas. It applies all the way across the board. This is just as true with like plays and performing arts type things as it is with athletic endeavors. So understanding that role of, hey, how can I be the best support within my lane?
Right. And I just thought of something.
Now, stay in your lane.
Stay in your lane. I just thought of something that I do not as a parent, but as an outside coach. And I may have mentioned this in a previous episode, but I think this is worth bringing up because I think it's something that parents could also do in their situation, especially if they have played before. And like you said, some parents have played at a high level. You have very, very good high school players. You have parents that have played collegiately. You have parents that have played professionally. And so as you know, Nate, I coach one teen. I choose to, I mean, most of my clients are adult clients, but I coach one very good athlete and player, and he's doing very well and has, national rankings and, all of those things that I don't care that much about. I care more about his well-being and and him as a person. But he has some, I mainly work on I only work on the mental performance and mindset with him, but he has some other technique coaches beyond his high school coach. And he's a kicker punter, so he works on very specific technique. I purposely have been with him when he's with these other coaches. And I've also asked him and grill him on what are you being taught? Like, what are some of the phrases, and actually what is the terminology? Because when I do mental performance exercises with him, I don't want to create another instructional voice. I want to be right on the same page with those technique coaches, those specialty coaches who know a lot more about that than me. And I'm patting myself on the back, but I think it's very helpful to him to do everything I can to create one instructional voice for him. So as a parent, I think parents could do that too. So you want to be involved, you want to support your kids, instead of telling them something that, and maybe even what you're telling them, it could be really awesome. It could be really great, Nate. I mean, it could be completely sound, but I think what's better is, for example, just something about playing defense. I always loved, the whole coaching defense more than offense, but playing defense, you might want to tell them to do something, but it may actually contradict team strategy and philosophy. And so now it's not one instructional voice, it is two competing voices. So what about asking your daughter, asking your son, hey, what's coach's philosophy on this? Like, I'm going to make something up defensively on help side rotation. And if you've played at higher levels, that term will ring true to you, and you'll be like, okay, because there's more than one way. There's a couple of predominant ways that coaches do this, but what does his coach, what does her coach say about that? Well, if you find out some of the terminology, then this is something that you can point out. This is something that you can encourage, and you stay within that one instructional voice.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a tough balance to hit. One of the things that I like when I served on your staff, I think you had a parent pledge. And I think that's worth bringing up at this point, because I think we've got a creation corner we want to get to with our parents, but I think this is a good table setter for that. Tell us a little bit about that pledge.
The parent pledge was, and it actually took me several years to come up with this, and it was just an extension of that communication policy, except this was focused on positive things to do. So this was, and I fully admit the communication policy is a list of 3 don'ts, right? We're not going to talk about these 3 things. And I will go to my grave saying that anybody that doesn't talk about those 3 things with a coach, you are going to be one step closer to being an ideal sports parent. But the parent pledge was I don't know right off. There's probably 10 to 15 things that you pledge to do as a parent. And so these were positive, optimistic, proactive things that you could do that would make you a great parent. Maybe it's something that we can post on the website.
I have the list. I want to read a couple of these things because I think it's really cool to show your point. I do. I have the list. I did a little homework. I pledge to encourage my son to learn something new about the game every day. It's a great positive directive thing that they
student of the game. Student of the game.
I pledge to encourage my son to brush or flush mistakes and to quickly focus on the next play. What I like about this one specifically is it gets at that idea you were talking about with terminology. Because most parents will try to encourage their kid, but when you echo the same message in a similar way like that, so now your parents know that's your terminology for
Right.
that. So now you say it, they say it, and it reinforces the same message. I pledge to support my son, his teammates, and his coaches by focusing on the team first. And throughout the pledge, it's just stuff like this, but it's exactly what you're talking about. It's directive in a positive direction. These are positive ways you can contribute to your son or daughter's athletic or performance experience.
So Creation Corner.
Yes.
Should I say it or you say it? Are we
so
on the same page?
Like
I think we're on the same page. Go for it.
I think so. And I think what we want to encourage the parents to do is, what's the pledge that you're willing to make to your son or daughter in their performance venue that will help you show up as that ideal parent in those situations, be it in the performing arts, be it in athletics? What's the pledge you're willing to make to your son or daughter that's going to allow you to show up with intention and add value to their experience? Did I cover the base there?
I have nothing to add.
That's, if you can create something here at the start of these, fall sports, fall activities, fall performing arts things, make a pledge, make an agreement with your son, with your daughter. This is how I'm going to show up to help you have a great experience.
Okay, now I am going to add something, because you said a trigger word for me. You said agreement. And this is our next episode is going to be about something that we call expectations versus agreements. So this will be a good transition. Creation Corner. Create a pledge. Like, what are you willing to agree to do as a parent? And what you do as a parent preseason, in many ways, is just as important as what your son or daughter is doing in the preseason to prepare for their upcoming season.
You as a parent can enhance their experience and help them have an exceptional season. Regardless of records or outcomes, you can help them have a wonderful, growing, and enriching experience.
We're done.
Yay.
On behalf of Steve Galley, I'm Nate Crandall, and we thank you, our loyal listeners, for tuning in to this episode. If you love what you're learning from the Stop Parenting and Start Coaching podcast, we would appreciate it very much if you would leave us a 5-star review and some glowing comments. We also encourage you to share this episode with your friends and family who are parents of athletes and performers. And if you want to explore further and see what Steve and I are creating to help thousands of parents, athletes, and performers, please visit our company's website at createtransformbecome.com. That's createtransformbecome, all one word, .com. There you'll find a growing number of resources to help you elevate your performance. Thank you again for your support, and we encourage you to create a magical relationship with your athlete and performer.